My name is Victor Lund, and I'm with a company called Wave Group. We work with companies, European countries, to bring them to America, and we work with American companies to bring them into Europe. So it's very nice to be here again. I was here last year. I talked a lot about real estate standards and how we organize data and how French companies can be successful in America. And I'm really excited to be back again this year. I brought a good friend of mine. She runs one of the largest real estate brands in America. It's a relatively new brand, part of the Realogy franchise group. So let's invite Sherry to join us.
Notre deuxième intervenant, c'est Sherry Chris, qui est présidente et CEO donc d'une boîte américaine aussi, Better Homes and Garden Real Estate. You can come with me.
Merci.
I'll let me introduce you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, bonsoir, Madame de Monsieur. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Sherry Chris. I am Chief Executive Officer of a real estate brand in the U.S. called Better Homes and Gardens. We have 400 offices, and we're now expanding globally and hopefully into France as well. So we want to talk to you about American trends in technology and real estate today. So Victor?
Thank you. So today I'll be asking a few questions of Sherry. She'll be able to talk a little bit about the things that they're doing to innovate technology in America. So one of the first things that Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate did was they invented a brand. In coming up with a new brand, you chose to partner with a legacy brand. Can you tell us about that decision and why that was so important to establish the foundation of your company, please?
We launched a brand 10 years ago, and in the middle of the American financial crisis, which was not the best time to launch a real estate brand. But from the consumer's perspective, it was a great time, because when we think about real estate and real estate agents and real estate brokers, there's a disconnect between what we do and what the consumer is expecting of us. So what we decided to do was launch a lifestyle real estate brand, a brand that creates a deeper connection with the end consumer to provide what we like to call exceptional customer service. So that's something unique in American real estate, and we want to take that concept around the world and help people create real estate experiences that are different and unique.
Thank you. So if you do not know, Better Homes and Gardens is a major magazine, a publication that talks about what it's like to live in a home and what it's like to have a garden. And certainly by extending their brand to your real estate company, you've complemented their brand. Can you talk about how the Better Homes and Gardens magazine brand has been impacted by the real estate brand?
Thank you, Victor. It's a great question. And so Better Homes and Gardens is a magazine. 40 million consumers in the United States read the magazine every month. It has 96% brand awareness. It's what we call the go-to magazine for people who want to design their home, interior design, gardening, cooking, living their lives, so to speak. And so for us, we wanted to take that concept and bring it into real estate. So what we've been able to do with this wonderful partnership is work back and forth. We help the magazine from a real estate perspective. We help even more people read the magazine each and every month, our clients across the country, and they help us create a different and unique experience with the end consumer, the buyers and sellers of real estate. So it's been a great partnership that's a unique partnership because there's no other real estate brand, we're a franchise brand, that has created a partnership with a lifestyle and design magazine. So we help each other with that. And again, we believe that the concept is unique to take it into other parts of the world as well. Because real estate, from a consumer perspective, should be a fun experience. But as we know, quite often it's not. And so that's the good part of my job, is to be able to work with my colleagues to create fun and have the customer at the end really believe that we've exceeded their expectations.
So one of the challenges that you have with real estate agents is helping them to understand what the brand means and to be able to communicate that brand to the consumers that you serve. And you have created an exhaustive array of tools that allow the real estate agent to differentiate themselves and be very specific about what it means to work with a real estate agent who's lifestyle minded. Can you share a little background on how you've accomplished that?
Well, we have accomplished that by doing extensive research with the consumer in mind. So when we think about the real estate industry, quite often what we're doing as agents and brokers and franchise brands is we copy each other. If one real estate company comes up with a great idea, another real estate company copies it, and so on and so on. But what about the consumer? And so what we did was extensive consumer research as to what they are looking for, how they go online and search for anything that they buy, and what type of experience are they looking for. So if you look at the screen up here, we think it's on there, there's an infographic that we've created. And what this infographic talks about is how consumers live their life online now. So I apologize that it's in English, but if you take a photo of it, it can easily be translated as well. So today we crave content. We want as much content that's meaningful to us as possible. Technology is an enabler. What technology does for us is it creates efficiencies. It allows us to have more clients because we're able to be more efficient than we used to be in years gone by. Today we are, very much from a technology perspective into hyper-personalization. So if I like shoes, which I do, I'm looking for shoes online. And then, of course, the next morning when I open up my laptop, shoes appear because those shoes are going to follow me until I buy them, or not. Today's consumer is empowered. So the consumer can look at all of you online and decide whether they like you or don't like you based on what you're posting on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other sites like that. So everything is transparent today, very much so. Today's consumer is sensitive to service. Today's consumer wants to have an exceptional customer experience with every interaction everywhere, not just in real estate. And also, as an added bonus, today's consumer around the world, they're looking for companies that are socially responsible, that give back in one way or another to help the world be a better place. So all of this research we took and incorporated it into our brand to try and take, the experience to another level as it relates to the consumer. Something interesting happened, and that is that the agents and brokers who are attracted to our brand are also individuals who believe in what I just shared with you. And so what that does is it's created a culturally aligned network across the U.S. and now abroad where, it's like-minded people thinking the same way. It raises the bar for our industry and for, the overall experience and the fun of being in real estate, because sometimes it's not too much fun.
So I wanted to start out to allow Sherry to talk about their brand and the way that it engages the consumer, because it informs all of the choices and decisions that they're making about the technology choices that they deploy. Technology is very much a part of the life of a professional real estate person. It's also a very important part of the life of any consumer. And if you don't have a brand which is informed by a philosophy around, in her case, lifestyle, then it's very difficult to understand the technologies that are going to play into your strategy. So one of the things that you guys did to really innovate around communicating the lifestyle to the real estate agents that work with the brand is you created this thing called the greenhouse. Can you tell us what the greenhouse is and the role that it plays in your company?
Absolutely. And so the greenhouse is, and by the way, the color for Better Homes and Gardens is green. So everything that we do, we do a play on green, on the color green. So the greenhouse is, it's an electronic house online where our agents and brokers go, 24/7 to do everything. There is CRM there, so they can keep in contact with their customers. There is training, digital marketing center, absolutely everything. We have online training 24/7. They can go, in their pajamas with a glass of wine in hand and be trained at 2 a.m. if that's what they want to do. So it's a one-size-fits-all shopping area. They can buy branded T-shirts and gifts for their clients that are lifestyle-oriented gifts. It really is the go-to place for everything. We just relaunched it, and it's more sophisticated than ever, and it really is our most widely used tool. And again, when you think about branding and the importance of culture and brand consistency, what you want to do is have everything in one place that's on brand, that's approved, and it's great quality stuff for the agents to use. Great quality marketing materials, great quality online tools, great quality blog pieces of information to blog, photography, video, all of it relating to both real estate and lifestyle.
The Better Homes and Gardens brand in the United States has 13,000 professionals that work for the brand, but it's part of the Realogy franchise group, which is the largest organization in the world. It has the brands of Century 21, ERA, Sotheby's, some brands that you may not like, Corcoran in New York, Climb in San Francisco, Coldwell Banker. I think together 130,000 or?
Yeah, we have almost 200,000 agents worldwide in 115 countries with all of our brands. And so what that allows us to do is to create technology efficiencies. So again, we go out and look at, what's the latest, and we're able to spread that across all of our brands. One piece of technology that's important is what we call ZAP, Z-A-P, ZAP, and it is our brand website, broker website, agent website. Again, that's all consistent branding and allows the consumer to have a good quality experience. So ZAP is something that we've used for the past 4 years, and everyone uses it. We have, when you have 13,000 agents, one of the things that we track, and I'm sure you do at your companies as well, is adoption rate. Right, Victor? Yes. It's important. And so if you have, typically in our real estate industry, adoption rate is at about 15%, 1-5, very low. So brokers spend a lot of money on tools, nobody uses them. So our adoption rate with ZAP is 100% because we built it right and it's rolled out properly, and what the agent needs is there. And what the consumer needs is there as well. And so today in technology, the adoption rate is becoming more and more important because you only have, as brokers and agents, so much money to spend. So you want to make sure that you're spending it as effectively as possible to generate the most leads coming in, which will in turn generate the most sales. So in today's world, technology is not for the sake of technology anymore. It is to create efficiencies and to have, a very generous, and I say generous, return on your investment. So that's one of the things that, keeps me up at night, that I'm thinking about all the time, how to increase that ROI return on investment and be able to distribute more good quality leads to our agents and brokers.
Excellent. So what you're seeing here is probably the most used customer relationship management software in the world, as it's being deployed to 200,000 real estate agents across your many brands. And one of the great innovations about Zap is that it has all of the listings across all of the brands available to all of the real estate agents. It flourishes tools that are in marketing and other things, but it's empowered by an artificial intelligence engine, AI engine. And I'm sure that here in France and throughout Europe, you guys are beginning to understand ways that you can introduce artificial intelligence to make the work that real estate agents do a lot easier. Can you talk a little bit about how AI is impacting Zap and the benefits of it to your agents?
Absolutely. So, when you think about your own business where you have maybe 200 or 500 people in your database that are potential clients or people you have met throughout the years that you put in your database, how do you determine when somebody is interested in buying or selling? In the old days of real estate, and I've been in real estate for 32 years, we did it by, brain power and just trying to figure things out. Today, technology helps us tremendously. And so what Zap does for us is if our database prospects are looking online for a property, Zap helps rate and rank and bring those prospects who are going to buy immediately right up to the top. And so as an agent, what you want to do each morning when you wake up is be able to have a short list, as we would call it, of prospects who are ready to buy within the next 15 to 30 days. Those are the people that you want to concentrate on first. And then what Zap also does is it rates those people who are maybe not quite ready yet, but are still good prospects based on their online habits, how often are they looking and what are they looking for. It rates them differently. And what it also does, which I think is a cool feature, is let's say I live in Manhattan, Victor lives in Los Angeles. So let's say I'm an agent and one of my prospects is looking in Manhattan, I can follow their web activity through Zap, then suddenly they start looking in LA. So what I would do then is call Victor and say, I have a referral for you. And if he sells the people a home, then I get paid some money too. So in the old world, that happened sometimes, but not always. Now with technology, we're really able to zero in on what's most important. Did I miss anything, Victor?
One of the things about Zap that is so exciting to me is, and you may understand this, when you get a new property listing, you may need a virtual tour, you may need a flyer, you may want to send a mailing to people in the neighborhood. All of that is done automatically for the real estate agent using the artificial intelligence in Zap. So not only is it able to look at a person's behavior and say, if you're coming to our websites and looking at properties multiple times a day, if we're sending you property alerts and you're opening them every day, if you're sharing them with your spouse or co-buyer, you're probably most likely to buy. You're very, very interested, but also just the other routine tasks that real estate agents have to do in order to prepare a listing or some kind of information, all that's done. And then you guys are doing some stuff with transaction management too, and making that easier to take really a customer from the initial stage of being, inquiring about a listing through the marketing and information stage and then into the transaction stage. So if you could just talk a little bit about that.
And with transaction management, of course, the complexities around the real estate transaction are many, and it's one thing looking at houses and deciding what you want to buy, but then what happens after that? You have to arrange financing, a mortgage, home inspection, et cetera, et cetera. And so transaction management platform allows all of that to be done seamlessly by prompting the agent and the consumer, and then capturing that data online and the contracts online. So when the consumer is in the process of buying a home, all they have to do is go online and look at everything rather than having, thousands of pieces of paper in files to comb through. So it's something that we should be experts at in this day and age. Sadly, in the US as well as other places in the world, we're not yet. And so we still have all of this paper and confusion around the transaction itself. It should be easy. It should be seamless, but it's not. So it's one of the pieces that we work on constantly to help improve the experience for our agents, but even more importantly, the end consumer. And I keep talking about the consumer because without customers buying and selling homes, we'd all be out of business. So we need to make sure that they value us as real estate agents and brokers, and that they value our expertise in helping them through the process so they're not just doing it eventually on their own, which would not be a good thing for us in this industry.
So probably the most exciting thing that's happening right now in American real estate is a notion of predictive analytics. So in America, we're able to have access to a lot of information about the consumer. We know, for example, if people are going to file for divorce. If they're going to file for divorce, they're probably going to sell their home. At other times, if they're living in a small apartment, they have a child, they're likely to buy a new home that's a little bigger. Other things that we can look at is how much they owe on their property. So if their property value is less than the amount they owe, they probably are not going to move. But if they have a lot of equity in their home, they're likely to move. Or if they've gotten a new job or something like that. So the predictive analytics is the application of big data practices in America. And one of the innovations that Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate has developed is something called Pinpoint, and it's through their partner. So tell us about Pinpoint and how that predictive analytics is informing your consumer strategy.
Thanks, Victor. And as Victor points out, this is the next big trend in our industry, and it continues along the vein of the importance of knowing when somebody is going to want to make a transaction in real estate. So one of the most important components of our partnership with the magazine Better Homes and Gardens is the fact that they have a huge database of 200 million consumers. Now, there are only 300 million people, 320 million, I think, that actually live in the United States. So they basically have in their database every adult over the age of 18. And not just do they have that information captured, they have layers and layers of data on top of each person. In some cases, it's over 1,000 data points per consumer. So what we're able to do is go in and determine who is the most likely person to buy a particular home. Now, this works well in any case, but it works very well in unique homes and luxury properties because the buyer pool is less. The higher the price, the fewer the people who would qualify to buy that home. You want to find them. How do you find them? You use predictive analytics in a database to pinpoint, which is why we call this Pinpoint, who the 20 most likely buyers are. Then you reach out to them with wonderful and very high-end marketing materials to try and entice them into looking for that home. So that's at the high end. First-time home buyers. We know if people are renting and they've just subscribed to Baby magazine, it means they're having a baby, they're probably going to want to buy a home. So that bubbles up to the top for us, and we're able to reach out where there are listings that are a good match for first-time home buyers in a marketplace and match those people up. That's the future of our industry, and that's where I think as an industry as a whole we fall behind. When we think about other industries are very, very good at predictive modeling, predictive analytics, and predictive marketing as well, where going out and marketing to groups to try and entice them to make a purchase. In real estate, we're behind on it, and we need to get out ahead of it, because in the real estate transaction itself, it is a combination of the web, where people are looking and dreaming about the next phase of their lives as it relates to real estate. It's about the data and information. It's about creating efficiencies, making the process easier and more contained, but it's also about the relationship between the real estate agent and the end consumer. And so what we try and do is package all of that together, but keep in mind that that relationship between the agent and the consumer needs to continue to be the most important part of the real estate transaction, and that's what will keep our industry around the world more than alive and well, but thriving.
So I recently wrote an article about disruptors, and there's a lot of conversation in the United States about how technology may serve to disrupt the relationship between the real estate professional and the consumer. It's the target of many companies. And in the article, I suggested that actually what disruptors do is they make an existing industry much better. And we've seen that the influence that Uber has had on the taxi industry has made it much better. We've seen that travel websites have made airlines much better at delivering to the consumer. Can you talk about how disruptors in the industry have made you better and how it's caused you to innovate?
Absolutely, and it's a great point. And of course, another great example of a disruptor is Airbnb. And they've disrupted the hotel industry incredibly. And with Uber, I'm a big Uber fan. I used Uber twice last night, and I loved my driver both times. Gave him a 5-star rating, and all of that good stuff. So I didn't even think to take a taxi because it's easier to use Uber, and you don't have to get money out to pay. So when we think about real estate, there are some disruptors that are entering the industry, and I'll use a couple of examples to start with. But before I do that, I want to say I look at disruptors as a positive influence in our industry. Why? Because they are individuals, startups, and companies who are willing to take a risk. Not all of us are willing to take a risk. Many of us want to continue to practice real estate in the traditional way and not change anything, which is okay, but it's not going to be okay in the future. And so these disruptors come in and they see a potential gap. And there's a gap that they can, if they tweak their model, fill that gap and take some of the business away. Here's a couple of examples. Number one, an older example now, because they've been in business for almost 15 years, is Zillow. I'm sure many of you have heard the word Zillow, and you know that they are a site that captures the interest of pretty well every real estate consumer, because they're able to give price estimates. They take information and put it together in a pleasing way for the consumer, and they charge agents advertising fees to advertise and get leads from Zillow. Now, everybody's still mad and upset and angry at Zillow. They're a public company now. They've got about a $12 billion market cap. They are exceedingly successful and will continue to be. They filled a niche that no brand or brokerage company was willing or able to do. So I give them credit for that, and we're a very strong partner with them. So they took that risk. They raised money, and they went in and said, okay, the consumer wants a better experience. We're going to provide them that. And oh, by the way, agents and brokers will refer those leads back to you. Fine, it works. Another more recent example in the US is Open Door. And so what they do is take inventory that, it might be investment inventory or, inventory as it's related to the downturn in our industry where it's rented out. It's not principal residences. And they offer an opportunity for sellers to sell it on the spot. No, worry about open houses or having a listing displayed for months on end. They buy it and resell it. And so it's a convenience for those investors. Now, there are agents and brokers all across the country that are upset by this. They're saying, they've come in and they're taking my business away from me. But the reality is that they saw a niche. They saw a gap and they filled it. They filled it with a service that is better for the end consumer. And so we all need to learn from these disruptors, as we call them, and I call them pioneers. I also call them, and this is a Canadian, or not a Canadian term, I am Canadian, but this is an English term. We call them frenemies. So what that means is they're one half friend and one half enemy, because they may disrupt so much someday that they take us over. Probably not going to happen, but we always have to keep our eye open and make sure that we're ahead of them, understanding what they're doing, partnering with them so we know everything, but always, keeping an ear to the ground, so to speak. So does that make sense?
It does, and I will let you know that I think last week you guys announced that you will be purchasing homes now too.
We will. So what we did was, and that's through my parent company, Realogy. So we looked at Open Door and other companies like that and looked at their best practices and actually worked with them, did some work with them, but then we decided we can do this too. So that's exactly what we did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do I have time? Can I do one more? Are we good on time? Yeah? So I'll just give you some insight about one thing that is really emerging in the United States, which is a game changer. If you guys have used Amazon.com, you've had an experience where the website knows what you're going to buy before you think of buying it. Another experience that you can try is if you go to Tesla.com, you can begin building a car. And by building that car, you don't put in any name or information about yourself. You just begin to build the car, and then you leave the website. And then suddenly you might be on Facebook, and while you're on Facebook, they tell you, would you like to finish building your car?
I know.
And then you click it, and it takes you back to Tesla, and it takes you right back to the place you were in building your car. And they did all of this without knowing who you are. And that technology is called a customer data platform.
Yeah.
And it completely eliminates the need for a consumer to register, to save their preferences. The servers are saving their sessions and reacquainting the consumer with their company when they come back, even though they don't really know them. They just kind of recognize them and begin to do things. Can you talk a little bit about customer data platforms and where you see the spirit of that and how it's going to change real estate in the future?
Well, I think it is going to change real estate, and because, when you're talking about registering, it's what consumers hate to do. They don't want to leave their information with anyone because they know what's going to happen, and that is that wherever they register, that company will be following them and, bothering them into doing something. So the fact that today there's technology where the consumer does not have to register, it's pretty important. And, in time, the consumer will feel more and more comfortable with this platform, and they'll look at it as a positive rather than a negative. The example that Victor uses about Tesla, what I think is if it was me and the Tesla box appeared on my Facebook page, I'd go, oh yeah, I forgot to finish that. And I'd go online and finish it. Think about how that could apply to real estate, where you're being prompted or your clients are being prompted to, you looked at, a beautiful co-op in Tribeca, Manhattan. Do you want to see more? Actually, that technology is available today. And so there are sites, I live in Manhattan, and there's a site called Street Easy, which happens to be owned by Zillow, where, I'm always looking for real estate because I'm in the real estate industry. And so every time I go to that particular site, Street Easy, what happens is my preferences come up. New listings without me even prompting or registering. Listings come up that they say, you might like this. And, most of the time I do like it. I just don't want to write a check for $5 million for a new property in Manhattan. But, that's one example of how this type of a platform will change the way that we're doing business. And some of us are even, doing this now. The important thing with platforms like this is that they have to be portrayed in a friendly manner. It can't seem intrusive. It can't seem like, oh, them again. It's got to be portrayed in a friendly manner where you want to continue to build your Tesla, or you want to continue to look at properties in Manhattan, and you like the fact that this is being delivered to you on a platform, and it happens to be right at the time when you have time to actually think about it and fill in more information. So it seems like technology is inside our brains today, and in many respects it is. And it can be frightening for some, it can be exciting for others. I like to look at it in the exciting realm, because I think that in our industry and others, technology creates those wonderful efficiencies that, coupled with the human touch, allows for an incredible experience in real estate and beyond.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sherry. If any of you are interested in learning more about the Better Homes and Gardens brand, you can reach out to Sherry, or she'll be here. We write a lot about the emerging technology trends in real estate, so you're welcome to follow me on social media.
Absolutely.
Or reach out to me. And thank you once again for having us, and it's been exciting to be at the show.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.